All right, so today we're going to look at working with circumference of a circle. And we're going to focus on 3 different types of questions and also make sure we're looking at how much work you need to show even as you're using the calculator. So the Math Antics video the other day discussed the fact that pi is the ratio between the circumference of a circle, or the distance around it, and the diameter of the circle, or the distance across it. So c divided by d gives us pi, which is, remember, approximately 3.14. So what that relationship also means is that the circumference is equal to pi times the diameter. So this is the key formula we're going to use when we work with circumference. One thing we need to mention here is that some work you might see says use 3.14 or 22/7 for pi. 22/7 is a less accurate depiction for pi. Here, if I divide 22 by 7, I do get 3.14, but then it changes and it's slightly different from pi. So it's actually more accurate to use 3.14, or if instructed to use the actual pi button. For these questions here, we'll be using 3.14 for pi. Now, let's take a look at some basic examples where we're just asked to find the circumference. So if c equals pi times diameter, in this case, we are not given the diameter, we are given the radius. So we need to make sure that we are multiplying that by 2 to get the diameter. So that would in fact be 8. So this would be pi times 8, or if I write that more properly, 8 pi. Now, if I want an exact value, I need to enter that into the calculator. 8 times 3.14. So the circumference is going to be 25.12 meters. So in this case, I use 3.14. I've got 25.12. I'm going to go ahead and put that entire answer because it's only 2 decimal places. However, if my instructions are to use the pi button, so that would be 8 pi, I get a very long number. So in that case, I would probably be okay to round to 2 decimal places, 25.13 in that case. So you'll see that there's a 1/100th of a meter difference between using 3.14 and using the pi button. So it's important to read the directions in terms of which value to use and in terms of any rounding instructions that you are given. That's why it's also important that you show your thinking, even if you're using a calculator, to actually get the final value. So a second example here, I know c should equal pi times diameter. Well, the diameter here is 11, so that would be 11 pi. And I'm going to use 3.14, 34.54 centimeters. Our units are distance, one-dimensional, so we have meters or centimeters. So the second type of question you might see is when you're given the circumference and you're asked to find either the radius or the diameter. So we know that the circumference is equal to pi times diameter. In this case, we know the circumference, so we know that 50.24 should equal pi times diameter. Now, for this question, we're going to use 3.14 for pi. So that means 50.24 is equal to 3.14 d. So to solve for d, I need to divide both sides of my equation by 3.14 because the opposite of multiplication is division. And I get 16. So the diameter of this circle would be 16. From the diameter, of course, we also know that the radius would be half as much as the diameter, so the radius would be 8 centimeters in this case. So it just means reading carefully which one you're being asked to find. Now, what if this was a situation where you were being asked to use pi, not 3.14? So let's take this version over here. Remember, pi is representing a value. So I can divide both sides of the equation by pi. just like I can divide both sides of the equation by a number. So if I do 50.24 divided by pi, I get 15.9918868. So if I round that up to the nearest tenth, I would get 16. If I round it up to the nearest hundredth, I would get 15.99. So you see there's not much of a difference there. But remember to always follow the instructions that you are given. So the third type of question you might be asked to solve is to find the perimeter of a semicircle. So we're using the term perimeter here because we only use circumference to describe the distance around a circle, and in this shape we also have a straight line. So essentially what we have here is we have half of a circumference and we have this line. So let's start by finding the circumference of the whole circle, and then we'll just divide that by 2. So the circumference of the whole circle would be pi times diameter, which is 12, the diameter times pi. However, I only want half of that. So I have two options here. I could calculate 12 pi and then divide that by 2, or I could take 12 pi and divide it by 2. 12 divided by 2 is 6. 6 pi, and now I will do 6 times 3.14 because again for these questions we're using 3.14. So that would be 18.84 centimeters for the semicircle plus 12 centimeters for the line there, which gives us 30.84 centimeters. Perimeter of this shape.